Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Saturday night. What is up, Eileen?
Hey, peace, love, not war. We've just been chatting together off air, and I'm like really excited about something. Like I had this epiphany, and I wanted to share it tonight, and all of you guys are going to go, Eileen, it's about time you got onto that page, right? Because you and this community have a lot to do with me getting to where I am now.
Right, and we've all really grown a lot together. I mean,
Yeah. But you see, I had this news background, mainstream media, and I became the crusader. I wanted to be the next Phil Donahue and Ralph Nader, even Oprah a little bit, did a little bit of crusading for the public and, against injustices and crusading for truth. And I just realized with the after effects of this lockdown, which we're allowed to say, right? It's called a lockdown. I have a choice now. I can go gung-ho, let's fight 5G, let's fight vaccinations, let's fight the ruling elite, let's fight for freedom and our rights to travel and speak. Or I can observe and say, I do not consent, I do not approve of what's happening, but I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to manifest my reality and the new world, the new earth, etc., birthing the new earth in a way where those people just kind of fall away because they're not getting any support. There's no support for mandatory lockdowns, no support for mass vaccination, no support for 5G going everywhere. So it just naturally falls away because there's a lack of support for it. Because if you fight it in a dualistic material world, you create the energy in the fighting that feeds what you're pushing against. So you got two things pushing against each other, which creates more karma. It just creates more cause and effect. And if you step back and one person's really pushing and, like you said, wanting to fight, and you just sit there and observe it and say, I refuse to partake in this fight, what's the person going to do? Continue fighting when there's nothing to push against, So they need us to push against them as much as we need them to push against in order to grow and to learn in a dualistic world. So what do you think of all that?
Yeah, I think it's a well-oiled engine, and it's once you take a step back, you can see how it's all working together for good, And
See,
as far as any of those,
brought me there. You brought me along with you on the train of you do not have to fight in order to manifest goodness. You do not have to use negative energy to get good energy.
Right, you just put the energy into what you want rather than what you don't want.
See?
That's the whole trick, you know what I mean?
That is the whole trick. I've been reading that for decades on manifestation.
Just think about the stuff. I mean, the stuff you mentioned are real concerns that people have.
They are concerns, yeah.
But on one hand, how many of us are facing anything just yet? Has anyone gone to get a driver's license yet? And they're like, well, have you gotten this yet? Or there's nothing like that yet. So, until it gets to something like that, and it's within my sphere of influence, my experience, and if it does, then I'll resist because it's within, I don't want that. It's within my realm of. It's something, you know what I mean? And I push it back away. No, I'm not going to have anything to do with that, But
it's real. It's something that you can respond to in real time.
Right. But at this point, all you can do is fuel the flames, so to speak, before it gets there.
And fuel the fear. Yes.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I really enjoyed the link that you sent me for Event 202.
Yeah.
And I dropped it into my community page for anybody interested. I thought it was super cool that real people on YouTube, I know a few of them, not personally, but I've like watched their channels for a while. They're real people. I don't know if they're like con-op or psyop because I don't know them personally, but they're real people who want to make real change, and they're saying, let's get together and make positive changes here on Earth. And I'm like, yeah, instead of going, well, it's okay because Q says that Trump's going to do it for us. So you just sit back, wait and see what Trump does. I'm like, I don't put people down who believe in Q because I think the messages coming from Q are pretty darn cool. I mean, they're very accurate, right?
They're waking people up. That's for
They're
sure.
waking people up,
Yeah.
but I don't agree with sit back and wait and see what Trump does. Or I just heard Jason Sather, what's that, Destroying the Illusion, broke from
Jordan, yeah.
the Corey Good and David Wilcock group. He said he's no longer in philosophical agreement with them, so he's stepped away. He was kind of a newbie in that group anyway. He just joined like 2 years ago, and he's very young.
Right.
But I love their channels and I love their information, but I do not agree that it's okay or smart to sit back and wait for the good aliens to conquer Earth and chase the bad aliens away. It's always like it's a human problem, and humanity has to either make the best of it, fix it, move on. It's like this little planet, whatever shape you see it in, it's ours. And we're either going to do a good job or not. And maybe we'll get a chance to come back and fix things that we didn't fix last time we were here. If you believe in reincarnation.
Right. And some of us feel like we've been doing that over and over and over again already, right?
Well, the Theosophists believe, Madame Blavatsky, Steiner, Alice Bailey, they educated the Astors, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Stanleys. They educated the ruling elite, which are now kind of the controlling families, in Theosophy, which is that the Earth has these great cycles of 25,000 years, right? And that you can be reincarnated throughout that entire cycle. And then when that cycle comes to an end, that's it. You have to move on into something else. You necessarily get a chance to start at a brand new 26,000 year cycle, which actually is good because that might be starting from an amoeba. That might be life on Earth every 26,000 years. It might be the amoeba, the single-celled organism.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like, you think of being a tree or a rock or something, and it seems pretty boring. But if that's the level of consciousness you're at, probably be pretty blissful to be a rock or a tree.
Oh man, I'd love to be a rock or a tree, and I'm sure I was at some point. If this is true that we have 26,000 years to experience a realm. A realm of existence,
and an octave, like in
an octave, yeah.
In Law of One terms, I guess.
Law of One, an octave, a whole octave.
Isn't that interesting? Here we are, right at the end of it, and we're all, pushing to get to that next octave, and I believe it's going to be a class from all over again, though, according to the Law of One. It's going to be different lessons to learn,
but it's going to be challenges, right?
Right.
Because otherwise you're living in a complete state of bliss, which means you are not growing at all. You are remaining exactly as you are.
Right.
And we know the universe loves change, loves growth. It's all around us, at least in
Constantly.
our physical. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very dynamic universe, isn't it?
Very dynamic. What's interesting, though, is I've changed my mind that a lot of the ascension theories, you and I did a show on ascension theories like 3 years ago, right when I met you. Do you remember? We were going over the shift and the event, the Law of One, David Wilcock, Dolores Cannon, and we found they were all very similar. Like the shift is the event, and the event is ascension and the rapture. It's all like related. And they were like, do we all go together at one time, or is it individual? Right?
That's the big question.
For sure.
And it can be both. It can be you get raptured and everyone in your life get everyone in your reality gets raptured, but the person right next to you might experience it a completely different way. We have no idea. I mean, according to what I've seen, it's a very individual, very subjective experience. I mean, it's like as we grow and we coming to more of our higher self, those around us begin to come into their higher self, and it's like, I don't know, it's just not the way we think it is. According to all of the information I get, it's like not at all like we think it is.
No.
You know?
And I'm starting to think that it's not based on goodness. I know that's going to tick some people off because they're going to go, I'm really, really good, so I was definitely going to ascend. And now you're ticking me off, Eileen, because you're making me think, am I? Am I ready for ascension? So here's the controversial bit about tonight, about what I've been feeling recently and researching and looking into and trying to get like a gut and a heart internal gnosis about, because I'm like,
and I feel like it's important to do like a disclaimer here, like spoiler alert. Reality spoiler alert, guys. Okay.
Well, Shane will just bring me right back down to earth if I fly off too far. I'm starting to feel like it's not about goodness, that goodness is good, that God is good. And obviously goodness trumps, I hate using that word, goodness is over negativity because it helps the whole to grow and thrive and succeed. If you don't have elements of greed, elements of oppression, that's not healthy for the whole organism or species. Is it? Well, exactly, because that causes, as you've said, the tension for us to push against so we can be heroes. Without that element, there's no way you could be a hero because everybody's good, right? And maybe you're not challenged so much. I know exactly what you mean. But I'm starting to think that the ascension process is based on truth. And I think I told you why before we went on the show, and I don't know if I can say it as well. I'll try. And if I don't, maybe you can repeat it for me. The reason I suspect that that's the case is that if you don't see behind the smoke and mirrors, and you don't see the reality behind the reality, you have no chance of responding or reacting in a more appropriate way for your own ascension. You're just stuck in the illusion of the movie, and it feels real, and you believe everything that you see. So how can you ever get out of that if everything around you, which is illusion, appears to be true? But then suddenly you start going, was it really a lone shooter with JFK, even though he had like 3 shots in the front of him and that magic bullet that traveled all over his body, right? That doesn't seem right. And then you start seeing the contrails that last all day and drip down from the sky. And you're like, wait a minute, I remember seeing airplanes and they didn't do that. And then, you look up what's in vaccines and GMOs and, the whole kind of structural illusion that we're all operating under that serves some, but is not particularly serving everybody. And if you don't wake up to those truths, which are not ultimate truths, right? You're just seeing behind the veil, then you can't get to a point where you say, you know what? I'm not going to react to that. I'm not going to buy into that anymore. I'm not going to fuel that reality anymore. And you then, once you stop reacting and you stop fueling the negative, positive, good dichotomy here, well, then here is no longer serving you. Here is no longer helping you to grow because you've stepped out of the game and you've said, I'm going to observe it, but I'm not going to fuel it with my emotions and my actions and make it worse. I'm just going to sit back and watch it. How long is the universe going to go, hey, there's some players down there. They're just sitting back. They're not interacting. They're not doing anything. They're not even growing anymore. Maybe you get to a level of truth in your reality where your reality stops serving you and you have to level up. You have to level up into a reality that offers new challenges that you haven't quite figured out yet. So that's my theory. Does that make, like, at least did I express it correctly? So you kind of know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really growth potential is what decides whether you stay or move on.
Yeah.
Because we know, according to the law of one, it doesn't positive or negative isn't the criteria.
Mm-mm. I never understood
Because,
that.
right, because technically, if that was the criterion, then there wouldn't be a negative harvest. There is a negative harvest, right?
Exactly.
There's a positive and a negative harvest. If you want
Yes.
to pursue the negative path, you have to be 95% rotten tomatoes, right? Pretty much. You got to be service
Yes,
to
but you
self,
still ascend. You
but
still
you
move
still
on into
ascend.
the fourth
Exactly.
density.
Into a real, into some sort of real devil, probably. I don't know how it works, but
Well, into an environment, imagine it. If karma plays into law of one and you are, I won't even say names, but you're those people here who are seriously controlling the show here in a way that's positive for you and your family, but really negative for people.
all right.
And you need to ascend into a greater environment that can teach you more. If karma comes into play, then you'll get to experience that which you've created,
Mm-hmm.
a world full of enforced vaccinations and house arrest and 5G and whatever, and wars and turmoil and negative energy that pollutes the air. You'll get to experience what you created. So they that's kind of like hell, isn't it? Like they're getting what they deserve because they created it in this lifetime, and now they're re-experiencing it, what they created, in a new lifetime. That would be ultimate retribution, wouldn't it?
I think it's just about growth more than it is about punishment or retribution,
Yeah.
though. You know,
Yeah, but
it's
maybe that's what they need to grow. If they've been extremely negative here in such a beautiful environment where it's very easy to choose a less negative path, then maybe they get to experience what they've created because that's the only way they can grow.
mm. See, I think it's more like the reality that we would consider like a hellish reality or realm, like you're saying. You know, ours would be where I'm wanting to go would be hellish to someone that would feel comfortable in that realm. So it's really whatever you're resonating at or whatever you're more comfortable at, because people in those lower realms that we consider hell would find our realm hell too. It would
They
be
might
too
love
high
it.
vibe,
Yeah,
you know.
they might
Be too,
love it. Actually, that makes perfect sense because I have noticed in my friends and family or mostly friends, who are not terribly switched on to activities behind the veil, behind the smoke and mirrors,
mm-hmm.
they're enjoying the fear part of it. They're
All right.
actually getting something out of that.
It's
You-
exciting.
It's exciting. You can tell that they're like, life was just boring and tootling along,
We
paying
get
their bills.
addicted to the drama and the excitement
Yeah,
and the fear and the uncertainty, and that's part of our experience when
it's
we're at that level.
dramatic.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I don't want to perpetuate fear because I'm not afraid. It's like I was never afraid of the invisible invader. So like this could have been our, what was that called? No, what was it?
Project
Blue
Bluebeam, or
beam. Blue beam.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. This could have been like our blue beam, except what better than an invisible invader, something that you cannot see, something that's floating in the air and on people's hands and clothes that you cannot see.
All right,
And I just couldn't muster up fear. It was like, whatever happens, happens. If you live, you live, you die, you die. I'm not going to run around terrified of the air that I breathe.
all right,
And a lot of people saw me as foolish, to say the least, because I used to get from certain, you've got friends, don't you, that are just totally not Mandela affected. Yeah, not seeing the spiritual side of life.
I know people.
Yeah, me too. And if I sent something to them or posted something that would totally fit into our community, they just ignore it or just laugh it off. And now they'll actually come back and say, "That's dangerous. That's dangerous." What's dangerous? Anybody saying the virus will not kill you is dangerous. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. That's just an opinion. That's somebody's opinion. You can go, "Hey, I don't agree with you. I don't think you're right." But you don't find people of an opposite opinion dangerous. But now they do. So now they're scared. So I'm thinking maybe they're trying to desperately hold on to a paradigm that they feel is not true anymore. And that's why they're saying, I've had comments, those people should be silenced. I've had worse comments. I'm talking doctors and nurses who come out, like those two California Bakersfield ER doctors came out and they held a press conference. Did you catch that video? They pulled it down in America. It's still available in the UK because I don't really care. It's American doctors, but it was totally pulled down over here because these ER doctors in California shared what their experiences have been. And they confirmed all of our suspicions in this community as to what they're actually experiencing.
Blowing things out of proportion.
Yes.
and assigning the cause of death as being that when maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
Or they're not even tested or even sure of it. And they're
exactly. They confirmed all that. Two ER doctors held a press conference, and the reporter said, "What makes you think you have a right to say that?" That was the response of the reporters, where they were challenging the doctor's rights to say what they were saying.
To say what he was experiencing.
Yes, to say what they were experiencing, because it wasn't what our presidential coronavirus daily group and Fauci were saying. It was the opposite. And they said, what makes you think you have rights to say that? And in my mind, I was like, a doctor would always have a right to say what they're experiencing, right? I mean, who else would you want to hear from? The local dog catcher?
Right.
I mean, who better to share this kind of information than a doctor in the hot seat?
Right. Yeah, I think that they'd rather hear from like a victim that can't speak though, or something, probably.
Well,
so that way, at least they're not getting the truth out there, right?
So I'm talking about this level of authority, like real people, and the response from people who don't see through the illusion of the way things have been set up here by humans to control large masses and groups of humans. They're very threatened by it. They say that they should be locked up, not just silenced, but locked up. Why? Because they're going against my beliefs. Where did you get your beliefs? I get it from the mainstream media every night. I never turn CNN, MSNBC, or Fox off. It's running 24/7 now because they're all at home waiting for this to end. So if your beliefs are coming out of a box with a talking head telling you what to think, and two doctors get on and say, hey guys, it's really different, you want them locked up?
Oh my gosh, it's so cunning when you watch it with your eyes wide open and you watch the news. It is so cunning and sly the way they'll like slip stuff in. Like they had this really heartfelt story. Doesn't even matter what it is. It's just the way they did it, you know. This heartfelt story. They go back to the anchor guy and he goes, just another reason to stay at home. You know what I mean?
Man.
So they get you by the heart, right? And then
yes.
like, if somebody would have stayed at home, this wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? It all came back to this happened because someone didn't stay at home. So you should stay at home.
Yes.
You see what I mean? It's a psychological war going on. And I'm sitting here and I'm like cracking up laughing at how obvious it is. And I hope people see this, you know, but people don't. They're like, yeah, I'm going to stay home.
They did see it. How can you not see that? But I have a friend, I'm not naming names, I never do that, who literally was terrified of catching the CV and dying. So moved out of where her housemate, apartment, shared an apartment, but you can catch it from that person. So moved into a private place, Airbnb, locked herself in for a couple of weeks, and then was watching people walk outside and seeing news reports of people walking outside, getting the sun, getting fresh air, beaches, parks, wherever, before they shut down the world's beaches, right? And she literally said they need to be arrested because I'm not going out because I'm so fearful. They need to be as fearful as me, because if they're not as fearful as me, I'm mad at them and I want them put away. This, to me, is the whole Nazi Germany culture where you spy on your neighbors and your friends and your family, and then you turn them into the Gestapo. Even if you're turning them in for something that's not even true, you just suspect it. And then what's the Gestapo going to do? Come and take that family and ship them off to, Auschwitz or a labor camp or something. So I'm like, oh man, I think I'm kind of like, haven't we moved beyond that? Hasn't the whole of humanity moved beyond the genocide and the ability to be hoodwinked by a government to the point where you turn on each other?
I think sometimes people are just way more deplorable than the general population can ever even imagine is the problem. I think some people are just so good-hearted they can't imagine people would ever do some of the things that are being done. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, out of fear. Because
Well, just out of just being blind, out of the fact that a human could even treat another human that way. Some of the stuff is, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do.
like when you think of, the towers going up that we talk about, when they say some of the reasoning for putting those up, people, a lot of people will hear that and they're like, that's crazy. Why would they want to hurt us? Why would they do that? They would never do that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I've done a little more research on that. So yes, there are, everybody knows that they have technology that we don't know about, that they keep secret. Yeah. So of course there are sound weapons that can be delivered through your phone and over the Wi-Fi, but they're not doing it. They're not trying to kill all of humanity, right? That doesn't serve them. So why would they do that? So if you step it back and you start doing the research on 60 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz is huge. The Earth makes like 7.83 hertz. This is 60 gigahertz coming through non-ionizing radiation, so that short burst of energy is so powerful that it carries a lot of information. So you have to have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of little towers. And you can run automatic cars on it, automatic trains. You could run a hospital on it. You could run a factory on it. You can totally, what's the word? Automize? Is that the word? When you no longer
AI.
AI, yeah. Everything is automatically done for you.
Right.
Because it's so powerful it holds so much information in such a short burst of energy. The problem is it changes the oxygen molecules immediately around it, not far, far away. So like if you had 5G in your room, I've read reports that it doesn't go further than 5 feet or 6 feet or 8 feet. Have you read that? Where it can't go through walls.
Right. I know there's several different fifth generations, on phones, home Wi-Fi,
yeah,
the towers that they're putting up. So it really depends on which fifth generation we're talking about.
The
one that people are worried about isn't really out. Like I've got a fifth generation Wi-Fi thing, but it's not what's going on in the towers.
It's not the 5G. So they did roll out 5G and turn it on in America from October to December on the two coasts, plus Denver, poor Denver. And if you look at the CV map, it is heavily, heavily where the 5G went on from October to December. But guess what, guys? They're rolling out the 5G right now in the interior of the country from March, April, May, and June. It's they're just rolling it out, and people are not falling down dead, and animals are not falling down dead, right? But older people.
I don't know. We're all at home. We can't see.
That's why they said stay at home while we flip the switch. Ka-ching!
But some of the clips I've seen of people just falling over in China early on, I was like, what the heck? It's just people just standing there.
I missed those. They must have been standing right next to the transmitter. Okay, so it changes the oxygen molecules around it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change your body. And then you breathe in the changed oxygen molecules, and your lungs cannot uptake that. That's the word. Your lungs can no longer uptake that oxygen into the bloodstream. So people are literally falling over from altitude sickness. They just don't have enough oxygen in their body if they're too close to the 60 gigahertz. So yeah, do you want to live anywhere near one of these? Heck no. Do you want it on your kids' schools? No. I mean, common sense says no, but I don't know.
Sorry, I was checking the chat there. See ya, Nancy.
Bye, Nancy.
So yeah, I think all of this stuff is waking people up. You know what I mean? It's like people. So here's my question for you, because as we have people that might ask questions or come to us or whatever, and you kind of see where they're at, right? So don't you think it's more appropriate if someone comes to me and I kind of see where they're at and I'm like, you're sort of an edge of wonder person. I mean, we shouldn't have everybody come here because they won't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're fringe. We're the fringe on the fringe.
Right. Shouldn't we sort of direct people with wherever the information they're at right now? They're like, hey, did you hear about this? And did you hear about this? And then sort of direct them to maybe a YouTuber that's kind of covers that a little bit more.
Yeah, like I'm destroying the illusion and edge of wonder, because those are for early days of waking up. Right. Because you're like, what? Aliens are real? You mean the Navy has photographs and video of UFOs? It's all early days. But if you've been doing that for decades, you're going to want to go somewhere where there's a little more grit, a little more information to kind of challenge you a little bit.
Hey, Steve, thank you. So this is what I'm wondering. So if you've got people that are sort of, maybe they're on the Q thing. Maybe you'll send them to somebody that covers Q, or if they're getting into alien stuff, maybe send them to, I don't know, Edge of Wonder.
David Wilcock, I don't know, Corey Goode, right. Edge of Wonder. They're all together, by the way. They all do each other's shows.
So the reason I say this is because it came back to me the other day. The Matrix has sort of been trending around again for some reason. I've been noticing it's been coming into people's awareness again. But you think of like when he goes and he talks to the Oracle, and she doesn't tell him the truth that he was the one. She told him what he needed to hear, that he wasn't the one. So she told him what he needed to hear to push him further along on his path. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So, even though I'm not worried about some of that stuff, if that's where somebody's at and that's sort of where they're at, I just think, turning them on to more information of whatever they're interested in. You know what I mean? Even if I don't think that's a real concern.
Well, the last thing about that, and then tell me how that fits in together, is that if they're going to switch 5G on, which they are all over, which also explains why they said there's going to be a second wave of coronavirus, because they're literally lighting up the entire interior of the country now. And then the task force goes, the second wave of coronavirus will be hitting the interior of the United States. It's like, how do you know the mind of a virus? How do you know it's going to the interior? Oh, yeah. Ka-ching. 5G's turned on, right? So they know where it's going to go. And just for guys
don't know, allegedly there's a connection between 5G and CV.
Yeah, it has to do with respiratory symptoms. That's all. Right. And it fits perfectly because there's no fever. There's no.
Of course, it hasn't been proven or anything, right?
No, it hasn't been proven. Wink, wink. But there's a lot of evidence out there. You guys go look.
Right. You guys make your own choice up and look into it yourself. We're not making any claims here. But
no,
it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting connection there.
So, it fits with what they're predicting. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, it says 97% of humanity will survive the switch over to 5G. 98%, 99%. The number of people who will survive this and adapt to it is huge, because humans are adaptable. We adapt to everything. Ice ages, hot ages. We live in deserts. We live in, snowy climates. Humans are so adaptable. And so is the Mandela Effect, which is literally spontaneous evolution. It's an adaptation overnight. Boom, it changes.
Right.
So the universe is very forgiving and really helps us to adapt to anything. But the people who are going to suffer the most are the elderly. The elderly apparently have compromised lung function anyway, which is why something like 95% of all elderly people, don't quote me on that, but it's a huge number, die of pneumonia. They might have heart disease, they die of pneumonia. They might have cancer, they die of pneumonia.
Well, that used to be the case. Now we know the cause of death is going to be something different.
No laughing. You guys know why I'm laughing, because it's so crazy.
Right.
So that might be the reality that we're facing now.
Well, look at the bright side. I know pneumonia deaths have probably dropped so far down, along with flu and other ones.
Oh, yeah. All pneumonia and all flu deaths and even heart failure.
All-time low.
Is all-time low, all classified as CV. 100% verified by the senator, I can't remember his name, in Minnesota, and doctors in ER rooms have been coming out all over the place saying we must classify everything as a CV. So I think we kind of got a handle on this incredible thing that's happening to us. I think we're not fearful. We can see through the smoke and mirrors. We have internal gnosis, which is your internal, the nice way to say it is truth detector, and the not nice way to say it is your internal BS detector.
Right.
Yeah, it goes off. Wow, 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 wow. Right. But the question is, guys, in this community, what next? What next? The whole world is waking up now. Do we join them and start marching and pushing against the baddies, which is my inclination? I was born to do that.
Right.
Or
But
wouldn't
now
have
we have
gone
a higher
into.
perspective. We understand that intentions are so much more powerful. We can anchor and ground in the energies, and that is an important part of what's going on. It
Yes,
keeps
and I kind of
stability and harmony.
yes, I think peace is the answer in that way, which is spiritual, but in a physical way.
Right.
So if they lock everybody in, maybe chaos will ensue, and then they have to implement a police state to protect people from themselves, from the chaos. Oh, that didn't happen. If food starts disappearing off of shelves, maybe chaos will ensue, and then they have to implement a police state just to save us from ourselves. And if that doesn't happen, oops, they can't implement a police state when everybody's peaceful and cooperative and kind and loving and generous.
Yeah.
Right?
It's amazing how many recommended videos have something to do with, to be contagion or outbreak, and I'm like, are you
Fight,
serious? Why is all of
fight,
this getting pushed right now?
fight. Yep, yep. So I'm like, okay, no, peace out, love out. Let's do the Martin Luther King and Gandhi approach to change. And
Even
let
leading into this whole thing, the whole idea of Bird Box that came out, that
yeah,
this invisible enemy's out there and don't peek out the
yeah.
window and stay indoors and
How about the one where don't say a word? The whole movie's about being silent because if you say anything, an alien's going to come and bite your head off.
oh, okay, I didn't see that one.
You
I
didn't see
think my
that
kids
one?
saw that one though.
Oh, you got to see it. I think it might be on Netflix now. Do you get Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's on there. What's it called, guys? Quietly? I don't know. It's about being silent. Because if you are not silent, you will die quickly. A horrible death.
Yeah. It's amazing how it's right there in plain sight. It's like soft programming. This is like, if you think about it, it's like soft martial law. It's like, hey, we got a better idea.
Yeah,
Instead
we
of
do.
putting
This is
troops everywhere, hey, we'll just put out this movie Bird Box. We'll put out Contagion and
and then we'll tell them that
Outbreak and
there's a deadly virus that if they step outside their house, they'll die.
right,
And then you've got voluntary martial law. Everybody does it because they want to.
right. And then reinforce it
How clever.
with some sad clips and stories, and follow it up with, if people would have just stayed indoors,
Yeah.
you know. So
Then
now
the
it's
cockroaches
a
wouldn't have
moral
taken
thing now.
over on Earth and become
Right.
the new highest consciousness on Earth.
Right.
Okay, guys, next step. Next step. I can't go into the fight now. I've already done that. I cannot go back and start fighting the good fight again because I feel like that's going to put me into, because I'm going to be 59. So I think that's going to put me into another reality just like this one. If I continue to respond to it with fight, 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 fight.
Right.
So if I want to level up, which I do, I think I've given it my all here. If I want to level up into a more cooperative and compassionate reality, then I can't respond the way I always have in the past. I have to have a new way to respond. You know?
And it sort of gets back to what I was saying about you go to like one of those fairs or something, and as you're walking through, there's all these different booths doing different things, and you're just observing, you're watching. Maybe somebody's throwing and trying to knock over some bottles while you walk over here, and somebody's doing this or that, and you're just observing it.
Yep.
And it's sort of a bigger picture of the picture I got of walking down into the basement, and everybody's playing in their own little groups, playing their games. So Monopoly and Sorry over here, and Candyland over there. And you don't have to play any of the games. You can just watch. You don't have to step into any of those.
Not. But then if the universe is watching you or your higher self, they're going to go, oi, that Shane down there, he's not interacting with the world we've created for him. So let's put him in a new game. Okay, Shane, you ready? Boom. New game. to see if you'll interact, to see if you'll stretch yourself and grow. It might be that simple.
Right.
What's the point of coming back here again and again and again if you just won't interact with the reality that you've been given?
Right, but I think there's probably a level you go through. Well, I feel like I'm there now where I see through the illusion, and I use that information to help me play the game better, not to get triggered emotionally, and to react in the way that's most advantageous for everyone involved in things like that. That's why I'm saying, like, playing the game well is sending one to Edge of Wonder instead of to, Matt Kahn, because they're not going to get them, but they'll get Edge of Wonder. So, we have this information. Playing the game well is helping keep people with their momentum, their wake-up momentum they've got going on. Just help them wherever they're at and don't judge them, just love them. And to me, that's sort of the point that I think we're at, where we're playing the game well. We see through the illusion, but we can help others because of being able to see through it.
Yeah, I totally get that. Because at first I was a little disappointed that people I knew who didn't see through the smoke and mirrors aren't seeing it. I'm like, oh man, that is so disappointing. Because I feel like if this isn't going to wake you up, what is?
Think about the years and years of research and looking into stuff that we've done, and we just can't expect people to realize all this at one time without their head exploding.
Absolutely right. And so that's why you're my go-to guy to get calm and peaceful again, so that I don't feel disappointed that people I know are still under
where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they're still under the illusion. They're still going through the motion. And of course, now they think I'm completely insane. Before this current situation, they thought I was very odd. But now they just know I'm crazy, right? Because I don't see the reality that they see, and I'm not responding the way they're responding. And I can't force myself to go there. So I sometimes I feel like when people outgrow each other, it is a good thing for them to move on, because I've gotten to that point where if there's no common ground anymore and we do not share anything in common in our realities, what is there left to talk about? You can't even talk about the weather, really, because the weather's so odd, and the weather brings up all kinds of issues, right?
Right. Hey, Mike. The skies have been, I got an awesome, speaking of Mike, I got this awesome dragon picture the other day where it looked like the sky was coming down, and I need to send it to you,
yeah. Did you get a dragon? Did you get a dragon face?
Yeah, dragon cloud. It was the whole body, sort of with the sun shining down. It was really cool.
I'll send it to him.
Send that to Mike.
I think the clouds, he has a relationship. He knows what the word is too. It's when you can not manipulate, remember, Mike, where you can interact with the clouds and they interact with you. It's kind of like being a cloud avatar.
Right.
And I know that he definitely gets more sylphs and more dragons than I've ever seen in my life. I look at my clouds and they're white and fluffy, and I see dolphins everywhere. And I'm like, I'm in Florida. Of course they're full of dolphins. Why wouldn't they be full of dolphins, right? Occasionally turtles, occasionally fish. And I'm not getting the dragons. I love dragons. I like geckos. Geckos are adorable.
Right. Let's see here. So did we have a topic for tonight yet? Or
well, last week I promised you guys to try an experiment, an experimental meditation. Now, I've been thinking about it today, and it definitely works for me. So that's the disclaimer. I can do this meditation and I can push myself out of my physical body. But I have to tell you, I have been doing this since I lived in Germany, which was like 1990. Yeah, I lived in Germany in 1990. So, was that 30 years ago? Crikey, I've been doing this a long time. And it might work for you and it might not, but it'll give you an idea of what you can do to develop your own method, maybe.
Right.
Okay. And I think it's 100% based on fearlessness. It's feeling safe no matter how far you go and no matter how deep you go in your meditation, because you go in deeply to go out. There's a point where you stop going in and now you're going out.
Right. Kind of like what we talked about with the brain waves, how they slow down to the point where they speed up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Can you
The
explain that though, so
gamma.
people understand in case they didn't hear that show?
Right, the gamma. So when you meditate, when you go to sleep, your brain waves go from beta to alpha to theta to delta, and then
Slow.
which is super slow, like 4 cycles a second or something.
Yeah.
And then you can actually get in such a deep meditative state that you end up having gamma waves, which is what 25
40 to 100.
40 to 100
Super fast. Super
cycles.
fast brain waves. Yeah. Brainwave
Right.
cycles per
Which is
second.
like where quarterback is when he's in the zone or whatever, and time begins to slow down for him because his brain's going so much faster. He's able to do all the calculations. And a lot of us have experienced that right before you get in a wreck or an accident happens or anything, and time seems to slow down. It's the brain's way of giving you more time to react. So
yeah, time slows down because your brain is speeding up.
exactly.
So everything around you is going in slow-mo because your brain's going so fast.
Right.
And we should say, if you want to know more about that, pick up Lynn McTaggart's Power of 8 book.
Yeah.
Because she's got a section on brainwaves. Joe Dispenza does a lot with brainwaves too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the freaky thing, going so slow that you go into heightened brain activity, which is your best point of manifesting and your most psychic self.
Yeah.
And then there's a point of meditating where you go in and deeper and deeper and in until you're out. And you're nowhere, you're not even in your body anymore. You've left kind of the material world of atoms. Your consciousness has. But your body's still in there and it's safe. It's safe where it is. You know, you've got that cord of life connecting you so you can always pop back in. Often people will say when they're astral projecting or astral traveling or even a lucid dream, if somebody comes in and slams a door, they just wake up. It just makes that connection occur quicker. So there's no fear of not waking up. It's not like you're going to get lost out there somewhere.
Well, we do it every night, technically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what we do technically, supposedly every night while we're unconsciously sleeping and dreaming. But the key is, do you want to do it consciously?
Right.
Do you want to be aware while you do it? And you do. You lucid dream, don't you? Your last dream of the night, you're aware of it.
Yeah. Never enough, though. I don't want to get into doing lucid's I guess the point before the whole out of body experience. But that's what I'm shooting for. I want to be able to go to the pyramids at Giza, the halls of Amenti. I think it'd be cool that we all have a meetup at the Giza pyramids. That'd be cool. Like, all right, tonight we're all going to meet there.
You either meet asleep or you meet in a meditative state, and everybody picks the time and the place. What's really unusual, though, is most people who astral travel and astral project on purpose, especially like if you talk to Sherry about the Monroe Institute, like the different procedures you take, like there might be 12 different procedures to pop out. They don't even stay on Earth. They pop out into the cosmos.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, because out there is really, really big when it's no longer confined by matter.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stay on Earth.
Quite literally explore the whole universe.
Yeah. So in fact, this meditation takes you off of Earth. So if you want to explore Earth, once you can get out of yourself, you sure can. That's the easy part. Then it's easy to go around Earth and explore like the Arctic and the Antarctic and, you know, Egypt and China and places, you know, and actually once you're out, you can explore different timelines and dimensions. And you can also explore times, like you can go back in time and you can go forward in time. And you'll actually be seeing, hearing, and feeling things that come back with you and probably doubting it and going, oh, that was my imagination. That was just my imagination.
Right.
But in reality, consciousness is everything. So what you think is your imagination could be very, very real and true. Yeah. Like BQH. Like BQH, when you send people out of their like awake consciousness into a different state of consciousness where they start to get images, right? Yeah. Of their past, or how about their future? Have you had anybody go into their future?
I don't I have had some past life regressions. Most of them are like present time, though, in a lot of them. So future, I think mine was in a future or maybe just a different world that was a more. Sometimes you don't know if it's the future or just the more advanced civilization,
Yeah,
because then it could be the
interesting.
past.
Because mine with you, I thought it was my past, but we never asked, did we? So it could have been my future.
Right,
Didn't have to be the past, right? If you're
right.
just going to another version of you, it could be at the same time.
Yeah,
Just a different version of you
right.
in multi dimensions.
But in my personal session, the first place I went, this beautiful place with the mountains and a lake and just this beautiful scene, and it was my painting that I'd done, a Bob Ross painting that I'd done. So yeah, it's like our imagination, but we do really create, you know.
When you're studying how to be psychic, all of the psychic teachers say, go with your first image, go with your first instinct. If it's from something as simple as, there's 4 cards in front of you and somebody says, pick, and that like say, the numbers are 4, 5, 6, and 7, and they're all mixed up, and they go, pick number 6. They always say, go with your first instinct, the card you want to go to. If you start playing with, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I trust my first instinct? You kind of lose the spontaneity of instantly knowing where it is.
That's probably because it's like instantly it's a right brain activity. Any longer than that, you start analyzing it, so it turns into a left brain activity.
Uh-huh.
Well, is it this one or is it that one? It's probably this one because blah blah blah, and then you start trying to
You're on the wrong
rationalize
side of
it.
the brain
Yeah.
for intuition.
All right. You
Yeah,
got to
that
get
makes
it before it jumps in there and starts messing stuff up.
that makes
How
sense
often
because
our
so
left
many
brain
times,
messes stuff up?
yeah, so many times people go, "Oh man, I thought so. That was my first thought." They go, "That was my first thought. That's what I thought it was," and then they didn't act on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's also why sometimes we'll get an intuition about doing something and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So immediately we'll get the sensation to do something, to call someone or do something, and then our left brain will talk us out of it. It's that same thing. It's like, well, they're probably busy and, just whatever it is.
I've had a big aha moment like that this week. So I think last week or maybe at the weekend, I was messaging somebody in England, and we see each other every 2 years. They might come to Florida, or we go there, and we'll message each other maybe every 6 months. So it's not constant contact. And last week, because we were talking about something else, I just got this feeling, and I said, "Have you heard from Neve's mother? What's her name? Louise." And she went, "No, I haven't seen her, heard from her. And I moved back to America 8 years ago." She said, "In at least 8 years." And I'm like, boy, I wonder where she is and how her kids are doing and what's going on. Because the 3 of us were very close 12 years ago. And then what happened yesterday? She found me. She found me out of nowhere. She just went onto Facebook Messenger and said, "Is this you? I have been looking for you. I don't have your number because I don't have her number. She's moved on. She's in a different place, different phones." And she actually contacted me. It took 1 week okay, so what was that, Shane? She popped into my head out of nowhere. I'd never asked about her in the 8 years. I ask about her and she shows up in my direct messages a week later. Did I know that was going to happen? Was I being precognitive and feeling like, oh, I think I'm going to hear from Louise? Or did I send that message out to her in the ether by asking a mutual friend if they'd heard from her and where she is and what she's doing?
Right.
Which way did that happen? Did I send the message out to her so she came and found me, went through the internet and found me? Or when I was talking to our mutual friend, did I get the feeling?
Because it was going to happen.
Because it was going to happen.
Right.
I just got the feeling. She just came to mind. See, I can't answer that. There's no way I can ever answer which direction it went.
That's why I think really the only way to do it, that's why I was saying that we've been doing that at our house and sort of imagining a colored shape. you know, and then like one person will be sort of the transmitter of the colored shape while everyone else is trying to guess what it is, you know, and then everybody takes a guess, and some people have the color, some people have the shape, or every now and then somebody would get both, you know. But, you know, as we do that, you can kind of see who's purposely transmitting, who's purposely trying to receive. So at that point, you can get a better idea of who's the better receiver, who's the better transmitter, while you just
who's the transmitter and who's the receiver. Okay, so right. I probably told you guys this already, but like 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in my chair in the living room, and my daughter and her girlfriends were in her bedroom watching their TV, and suddenly my favorite cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory just popped in my head. I saw it, and I'm like, "Ooh, I really fancy a bit of lemon meringue cheesecake." So I fancied it enough after just popping into my head out of nowhere that I walked over, opened the door, and said, "Hey, girls, I'll buy cheesecake if you'll go get it. I'll buy it for all of us if you'll go get it for me." And they all rolled over on the floor in the bed laughing. And I'm like, "Why is cheesecake so funny?" And one of the girls, Kelsey, said, "Because I just told everybody, like 30 seconds before you walked in, wow, I really want some cheesecake. Do you guys want cheesecake?" And of course, I'm in another room and I can't hear them. And I see cheesecake in my head. And then I go, "Hey, girls, want to get some cheesecake?" And they're dying. They're just like, they can't believe it, you know?
So I think you transmitted it. You thought about it. It sounded good. And you thought, "I'm going to go ask the girls." And then she got it. She's like, "Hey, you want some cheesecake?"
Hey, guys,
and then you pop in.
"Hey, who wants cheesecake?"
Or she thought about it. You picked it up in the other room. You're like,
"Cheesecake it to me in my chair."
Pretty good.
And I got up and said, "Hey, who wants cheesecake?" And they're just dying in there. Like, no way. No way did you just say that. Why?
That's cool. So they're saying stuff like that too. Then
definitely.
That's encouraging. Because it's hard to miss at this point. You know, it's hard to miss. So much stuff is happening. I can see at some point you're like, that's coincidence, you know.
No.
But after it happens so much.
It was too specific. I mean, I could have said cake. I could have said pie. I could have said
tacos or anything. It could have been anything. Yeah.
Who wants dessert? But I go, "Hey, who wants cheesecake? I'll buy." And it's not like we eat a lot of cheesecake, which is really weird. I mean, maybe we'll go out there like for a birthday celebration once a year, once every 2 years. That was a very uncommon thing for me to say because we're not rolling in cheesecake in this house.
Right.
You know, it was kind of odd.
All right. Well, let me see. We need to get done in time for me to go get some cheesecake when we get off here. I'm just playing. Stuff's closing up early.
So everybody's willing. I know you guys are awesome. And you're also very, what's the word? Very willing to be a meditation experiment and see if we can push people a little bit further than they're used to going, if they want to. If you do not want to astral project or astral travel, just turn off the meditation, you know? Because next week we're going to be like, you know, birthing new earth and healing the earth and doing all kinds of cool things. So
remember, I got that sign from the soles of my shoes getting loosened up that our souls are getting loosened up, and we're going to be able to
getting loose.
Right. So we're going to be able to soul travel a little bit easier. So that's
absolutely.
Weird. And here we are.
Okay, so let's try it. For anybody game who wants to try it, and if it doesn't work for you, I'll apologize in advance. It works for me, but I usually don't speak it out loud. I usually do it silently in my head, just for me. So awesome. I will do my best, and then see if you get comfortable with it. And if you do, you can always rerun just this portion of the show and do the astral travel meditation as often as you like. You know, if it works for you, if it helps you. Get out there and explore the universe or the dimension, right?
Yeah, and be a real soul traveler, just like Albert Taylor. So
yes,
that'd be cool.
Yes. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna put this off. Although I love looking at your electric ball back there, your plasma ball. I could just stare at that and go into a meditation just like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody get really comfortable. There, just had to clear my voice some more. I didn't want you guys to have to listen to that. So get really, really comfortable tonight. And don't do this while driving or walking or anything dangerous. Make sure you are sitting down or laying down, and you might fall asleep, but that's okay. You know, you can still travel. You can still get some benefit from this. Kick off your shoes so you can flex your toes and just kind of put your shoulders up and put them back and then relax them back down. So we're just going to remove some of the tension in the shoulders and then just kind of move your neck down as far as it will go. Just let it rest there. Okay, now move it back as far as it will go and just let it rest there. Don't push it. And then let it fall to the side one way, let it rest. And finally, let it fall to the side the other way and just let it rest there. So you've really just kind of relaxed your neck, your head, and your shoulders. And now take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Hold it for a few comfortable moments and exhale out any tension anywhere in your body. And when you're ready, take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Hold it. And when you're ready, exhale out any stress that you may have encountered today or this past week. And finally, take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Really fill up the lower part of your lungs. Let your tummy extend. There you go. And just exhale it all out and relax. So we're going to start breathing in through our heart center and out of the heart center. And you're going to continue to breathe in through your heart chakra and out at a pace that feels really comfortable. Continue to breathe in and out through your heart and send down a grounding cord. This goes from your root chakra down to the center of the earth. When it reaches, the center, let it spread out in all directions. This is grounding your physical body. So your physical body will always be here and it will always be safe. If anybody walks in the room or makes a noise or anything like the TV or phone noise startles you, you will simply come back into your body naturally, instantly, and be completely awake and completely safe to carry on whatever you're doing. So continue breathing gently, slowly, in through your heart and out of your heart. See if you can create a pace where you're breathing just a little bit slower than normal. And now that you're fully grounded and fully conscious and completely relaxed, you're going to focus on your pineal gland. The best way to locate that is directly behind your eye socket in the center of your head. And it's small, but it's powerful. It's your third eye or Anja chakra center, which allows you to have perfect vision at all times, even when your eyes are closed. So just focus on that center, your third eye, in the center of your head, behind your eyes, and see a violet flame flickering, just a single flame. Look at the violet color. Can you see the violet color? It's okay to just imagine the violet color as well. Now you're going to take your consciousness, which is your awake, thinking brain, listening to these words, thinking your thoughts, and you're going to place your consciousness. You're going to go now, grab up your consciousness and go to your third eye and sit in your pineal gland. Sit comfortably in the violet flame. You're so tiny, your consciousness has just become so small that it fits easily and comfortably in your third eye, pineal gland. And just kind of rest there. No stress, no strain, just resting, just peaceful, completely safe, and completely relaxed. And now, when you're ready, you're going to allow your consciousness to expand. Go ahead, you can blow it up like a balloon if you like. And your consciousness is now filling your entire head. Really feel what your thinking consciousness feels like when it's filling your entire head. That's comfortable. Now expand it further and allow your consciousness to fill your entire physical body, filling the cavity around the organs, in the organs, going down the neck into the arms, into the fingers, going down into the legs now, into the ankles, into the feet, easily spreading right into the toes. And just allow your consciousness to fill your entire physical body. Notice how comfortable that feels and how easy it was to get there. Now you're going to allow your consciousness to expand further. Go ahead and let it expand about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet outside of your body. It creates a kind of energetic cocoon or bubble or egg of light and energy. Your consciousness has now filled your body, and now it's expanding beyond the physical body 2 or 3 feet all around you. Now that feels comfortable too. Very relaxed, very ordinary to expand your consciousness just beyond your body. We do that all the time when we're not paying attention and focusing on little things. That's how we can feel people looking at us when we're out in public. And now we're going to expand our consciousness. Go ahead, expand your consciousness further. Let it grow. Let it grow naturally because there's never any limit. It never gets depleted. Let it expand and grow and fill the room. Completely fill the room that you're in. And feel how easy that feels now. It's comfortable. There's no changes in temperatures. There's no objects to be felt with your consciousness, like furniture. You just easily fill up the room that you're in with your awareness, with your thoughts, with your consciousness, with your mind. And once you're comfortable filling up the room you're in, you can continue to expand at a slow and steady pace. And you're going to fill up the room and the building that you're in. And then you're going to continue to expand your consciousness and fill up your community and your state or your province, your area. Go ahead and fill up your country. And now fill up the entire earth in whatever shape you want that to be. Fill the earth up with your consciousness. Is it like a cloud? Is it like plasma? Does it have any boundaries at all? Now allow your consciousness to expand and slowly, gradually fill up earth and go beyond earth with your consciousness. Keep going and keep growing. And know that you are completely safe. You are always attached to your physical body through the life cord. Some people call it a silver cord or a gold cord. It's behind you. You can see in all directions now simply by changing your focus, but you don't have to look at your cord. Often when people do, that can send them back in their bodies. So just trust that your cord is there. You are always attached to your body. If any noises occur around your body, you will simply immediately go back in safely and open your eyes. But right now, you can continue to expand your consciousness and go into the space around Earth. Go beyond the space around Earth. Can you sense or see any planets, any stars? What does it feel like to allow your consciousness to expand beyond Earth? Still in the confines of what's called a solar system. Is it surprisingly dark and peaceful with lights here and there? Do you see a color? Do you see the violet flame all around you that would be coming from your Merkaba? Your consciousness actually has a shape and a vehicle, which you are now employing to take you further than you usually go unless you are completely asleep and unconscious. You are beyond the etheric realms, you are beyond the astral realms. So there is nothing and no one that can do you any harm anywhere in your consciousness. While you're floating around in space between worlds, you may occasionally even sense another being, which could be another person, expanding their consciousness and exploring the space in between spaces and in between places. And you will be completely respected. This is a place where you can make contact with guides and angels, but you don't have to. You can just float around and explore the space in between spaces. Do you want to go further? Because that's your choice now. If you wish, you can explore other dimensions and other planets. And if you go to a place that you don't feel comfortable exploring, you can come right back. How do you get back to your body at any point and at any time? You simply ask to do so, and you have an immediate, instant response to be back in your body. How do you do that? You open your eyes. As soon as you open your eyes, you're back and fully awake and aware, so that you can do this again as much as you like. From this place in comfortable, peaceful space, you can move also into the Akashic records, where you can see your future and your past to the extent that it would serve you. If it's not going to serve you in some way, you're not going to see that. So there is a safety element in this kind of deep, meditative, astral projection. And if you like now, you can start to shrink your consciousness just a little bit slowly, bringing it back in, bringing it into the solar system where you have familiar planets, the moon, Earth out in front of you. About the size of a baseball now. Keep going in back to Earth. Shrink your consciousness, the opposite of expansion. Now you're coming back into the earth realm, the material realm of your home. And instead of popping right back into your body in your familiar home, you can now go to a place on earth that you've always wanted to go or see or experience. And you can go in further and further so that you can see more of that, feel more of it, hear it, see it, sense it, experience it. Go ahead and shrink your consciousness, bring it back, make it smaller, bring it back to your hometown. What does it look like just to hover and float and fly above your hometown? Can you see familiar places, but from a different angle, not from the ground? Go ahead now, shrink your consciousness and bring it back down to just above your home. Is that a funny angle to look at? If so, you can bring your consciousness down to the street level so that you're looking at your home from an angle that's familiar, as if you're walking on the street outside of your home. Go ahead and shrink your consciousness now. Bring it into your room. Look down at your peaceful, safe, healthy body, exactly where you left it. Is it interesting looking at the room from this angle, from the ceiling? You can explore other rooms now if you wish and see other people in other rooms. And when you're ready, go ahead and shrink your consciousness back down and draw it into your body so that your consciousness, your mind, your awake mind fills your entire body. Very comfortable. Go ahead and shrink your consciousness back down now. Let it fill your head. And when you're ready, let your consciousness fill your pineal gland. And see the violet flame there. And just rest there for a few moments. This has all been very healing, energetically reviving, rejuvenating. And now that you've done it, you know you can do it anytime you choose by taking it step by step and doing it gradually. And now you're just going to let your consciousness expand to its normal, comfortable level. Let it fill the portion of your body that it is most comfortable in. And go ahead and take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Hold that for a few moments. And exhale. There you go. Open your eyes. Start to move your hands and feet around. Maybe your neck. Maybe your shoulders up and down. And come back.
All right. I didn't want you worried that I was gone.
No, but I just wanted to see how far you went. Did you get out into space?
I got into low orbit of Earth's low orbit, and I could actually feel and hear the hum of the Earth.
That is super cool.
So amazing and mammoth and grand, and yeah, just the humming.
That is super cool. I got out past the solar system into like floaty space where there's not a lot out there because space is so big for me.
Right.
That it's just like enormous blackness in all directions with lights around. And sometimes those lights are moving, so I think they might be like other consciousness.
Right.
Not necessarily from Earth, but other consciousness out in the same space, just kind of moving around and exploring. I've never gone farther. I've never gone farther than just outside like the solar system. Maybe someday I'll be like ready to try a different dimension.
I know when I was younger and I would do it, I would travel far, far away, like way out of the solar system, into other nebulas and stuff like that. Just see all sorts of strange stuff and then wonder, was that just my imagination?
Is that just, but you see, it is our imagination, but our imagination is everything. Our imagination is our consciousness. It's how Jules Verne invented helicopters and submarines. He
But
was
I
like,
love that method, that whole expanding outside of that's a good method.
that's what I learned decades and decades ago. I'm sure I read it somewhere because there wasn't really an internet back then for me to watch YouTube videos, which
Right.
I'm totally addicted to now. I used to read like a book a day or a book a week, and they were always metaphysical. They're always really odd. And it said to go in to go out. So you have to go in and you have to get really, really small and get into your pineal gland. And then once you're there, you go out the back of it, really, and you become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no limit to how big your consciousness can get.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of Jill Bolte Taylor talking about her stroke and going to her left brain, and she felt so expansive,
Yes.
and and she was wondering, like, or I guess into her right brain, I should say. She was wondering how she's going to stuff all of that consciousness back into that little bitty body.
I remember that. That's the interview you did with her, right?
Well, she had a TED talk, and I showed
Oh, that
a
was it, because
clip
I
of her
got that
TED
from
talk. Yeah,
you. And
yeah.
when she was saying that, I was like, oh my God, that's like astral projecting. You get really, 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 really tiny, and then you get really, 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 really big.
And she did it through a stroke.
Wow.
Just goes to show you if you can shut off that left brain.
Mine happened by accident. I was meditating, and the next thing I knew, I was bigger than Earth. And I got kind of scared. I was like, oh my God, how did this happen? I have no limits. I have no arms. I have no legs. And I was literally in another like dimension of me. And I was outside of Earth and bigger than Earth. And it was kind of scary at first, but then I was like, that was so cool. I want to do it again. So I had to figure out, how can I go back there? How can I get bigger than this tiny wee little speck of a planet that we're on? We're all like a bunch of who's on, what was it? Horton Hears a Who, and there's a planet on, it's on a dust ball, on a piece of dust, on a flower. And all the who's live on that piece of dust, and they think that's their planet, and they think their planet's huge. But really, they're on a piece of dust on a flower that this giant elephant Horton is carrying around. And he can hear the who's. He can hear them, so he has to save them and make sure nobody does anything to that flower or the dust on it.
Wow.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss story. Horton Hears a Who.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've often thought about that, the whole, with cells and protons and all of that being like little solar systems with each cell.
Yes. Yes, and I listened to the Scottish doctor, and it was so interesting. I think I still have the CD somewhere, where he talks you into, if you have something wrong, he'll talk you into going into that cell or those cells and fixing it. You get teeny, 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 tiny, like where's that submarine machine that they put through an injection? Remember that movie? What was that
Right.
called? Where they shrink people, and then they put them in an injection, and then they inject the submarine full of people into someone's body to fix something.
Wow, that sounds kind of familiar. That's not the one with Eddie Murphy, is it?
No, it's a really old movie from the
Oh, okay.
1960s. The Incredible Journey, right? Does that sound right? The Incredible Journey? Around the
Maybe.
time of the time machine, the first time machine.
I
And
might not have realized what they were doing.
yeah, you
You
were
know.
too young. These were before you. And Journey to the Center of the Earth. There were some really cool movies in the 60s and 70s that were super fantastic.
Right.
And he would just take your brain into, like, whatever it was,
Inner Space. Is that the
inner
name of the?
space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, everybody's saying Inner Space. Everybody knows it. I guess I'm late to the party here. I'm going to have to go watch that.
I think Inner Space came out in the 80s with people like Martin Short, right? Was Martin Short in Inner Space?
Fantastic Voyage. Is that another movie?
Yes, that's it. Fantastic Voyage from the
Well,
60s
what's
and
Inner
70s.
Space then?
That's like a remake of it.
Oh, okay.
So that's for younger
So you've
people who
seen them all.
remember Inner Space. I've seen them all.
Okay, so the original is Fantastic Voyage. The
Fantastic
newer
Voyage.
80s one is the Inner Space
Inner
one.
Space. Yep.
Okay, I got you. So the one you were originally talking about right before I was born in the 60s is Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I must have seen it when I was like 7 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, you can. I thought it was real that you could just get shrunk by a machine and then go in a submarine and get injected in a bloodstream. I mean, why wouldn't that be real
Right.
when you're that young? You know, everything's real.
You know, and I think a lot of times we're a lot closer to the truth with our little young imagination. Do you know what I mean? It's
I do.
I think
That's more true than what we've limited it to now.
Right.
Because like you said, oh, that was just my imagination. But yeah, that's what Jules Verne said when he saw the flying machines. And that's what, what's his name? Leonardo da Vinci said when he saw helicopters and airplanes, right?
Right.
They just saw it in their imagination. And then suddenly, not suddenly, but a couple of 100 years later, they're real.
Right. And, you know, another thing that supports this whole idea is how often have you thought of, wouldn't it be nice if they came up with this or that, some sort of little invention, you know, and then, you know, of course, we don't do anything with it. We never do anything with it. But we think about it, and then we see, wow, they invented that. I was just thinking of that, you know?
Yep.
Because it's like going through the collective consciousness. So
Yes.
that's where everything's created first,
Yes.
in the imagination, right?
And we can all tap into the same thought and the same idea.
Right. That way, if you get an invention, you better move on it quickly because you're not the only one. It goes out to the collective and whoever nabs it up, you know.
That is just true. That is completely true.
But in a perfect world, everyone who got that would work together and create this awesome product instead of 5 different versions of it that compete
with each other.
Right. I mean, if you look at the open source stuff now, software,
Yeah,
where people that work in the field have decided to come together and make software that's free and has all the little bells and whistles that the expensive software has. When you look into that, you can see how much better, because people put their heart into it. And then they add little things that they've thought would make the paid version better, you know. And then so really just having that community working on it is just comes up with a better product, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if there was
a non-product, a better software, I should say, because they're not even charging for it.
Yeah, better mousetrap. They always say, can you invent a better mousetrap? And actually, yes, you can, because the old mousetrap used to like chop their heads off or break their neck. And the new mousetraps are just a black box that tilts. And you put peanut butter in one end, and then you tilt it down, and then they run in to eat the peanut butter, and it tilts it back so they get trapped. And then you can run off with them to some wood somewhere and just shake them out and go, be free, little mouse, but not in my garage.
Right. The little guy in the cabin's like, why here?
I know. And it's happened to me. And I'm like, those little field mice, they weigh nothing. So the safety trap is back. And I'm like, well, I know there's got to be a mouse in there, but what if it's not a mouse? What if it's something like a big beetle? So you take the cap and you try to peek. And as you peek, either a tail or whiskers come charging at you. And you're like, oh my God, and you got to close it up again without catching their tail. So don't peek. Whatever is in there, just set it free in the fields.
Wow. Need to get like, I don't know, 100 yards of some dryer hose and just have it where they flip in there and then it just leads them out. You can bury it.
Flips them out with peanut butter. I only had in England. I only had field mice.
A mouse launcher.
In England. Yeah, mouse launcher. And they are very destructive because their little teeth like break up all the cardboard. And of course, everything you have in the garage is in flipping cardboard, right? And they're making nests everywhere. And then they have like 8 babies every 4 weeks. So you got to move them on quickly or you'll have like 10,000 mice in your garage.
They'll even chew through like plastic and stuff too. I mean, there's... You know?
Oh my God!
You think you go get some Rubbermaid things? I think they'd eventually chew.
They just chew their way through it.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody told me get a cat, but I have one eye allergic to a cat, and I wouldn't want to have a cat in the garage. That's kind of mean, but it would do the trick. It says the smell of cats makes the mice move out. They just will not live in a place that smells of cats because they know. Smart.
We have a lot of stray cats that run around in our neighborhood. So that's probably a good thing.
That's probably a good thing for ratting and mice and keeping them away from people. I lived in a 100-year-old farmhouse, in England, and the mice were in the walls. And I'm like, okay, I don't like hearing you scratching and running about, but you're not in my room, so I'm okay with that. You stay in the walls. Don't come into the room. In fact, one of them, obviously, there are holes and they can come in the rooms, right? Where maybe the siding, what do you call that? That skirting board isn't very tight.
Right.
And I'm in this old, creaky, cold farmhouse in the middle of England in the Midlands. And my daughter was 18 months old then, and she was learning words. And she suddenly looked at me and went, "Bird." And I'm like, "Where?" It's like 8 o'clock at night, really dark. And she points to the skirting board, and there's a little field mouse running by. And she's going, "Bird, bird, bird." Nobody taught her the word mouse yet.
That's so funny because that exact thing happened to me. I opened the garage door as a kid. I opened the garage door and turned the light on, and I could see something running really fast. And then, all I saw was something jet underneath some shelves. And I told my dad, I think there's a bird in the garage. That's exactly what I thought, because it was about the size of a bird. And
was it a rat?
And it was a mouse. Yeah, it was a mouse. Now, we moved in this place in Georgia that had rats, actual rats. And so we had no idea, but they would be running in the attic, like on top of the drywall. And
so
it didn't sound like,
thump, thump, thump,
so
thump,
it sounded like they were big. I mean, it sounded like a squirrel or a small cat or something. It didn't sound like mice. So we were like, what the heck is that in their attic?
It is right in the attic. Did you go look? I'd be terrified to go look. I have to send a man up to do that. That sounds totally sexist, but there's no way I'm putting my head in a dark hole where something's running around.
Yeah.
No way.
I'm the guy. I had to do it.
Yeah. Head in the attic going, "Please don't jump on my head." What am I
making lots of noise and stuff?
Yeah. I had a bird. That got in a hole and was thumping around in our attic. We didn't know what it was. And it wound up being a bird, and it was caught, not killed, and released. I had to call an animal person to come and get it. I couldn't go catch a bird in the attic.
Right. How'd they do? Then just end up popping out the vent on the end or something?
I don't know. I don't know how they did it. They didn't bring it through the hole back into the house. They said we just released it, so they must have popped something out.
That's
I didn't check their bags, though. Make sure they released it. Let me see in your bags. There better not be a dead bird in there. I paid a guy a lot of money. I had a house in Tampa, near Tampa, with a bunch of trees around it, really tall ones. And we wanted to move down here, so I rented it out. Really nice people wound up renting it. And they're like, "We hate to tell you this, but there's a lot of noises in the ceiling." And I'm like, "Crap, what moved in?" And they said, "It's loud." And I'm like, "Okay, probably not mice." So I called a trapper to go in, and I said, "Whatever it is, don't kill it. Just catch it and release it far away from the house. Because if you release it too close to the house, they know where the holes are. They'll go right back in."
Right.
And he said it was squirrels. It was a family of squirrels had moved into the attic.
Yeah, we had the same issue with squirrels too.
Yep. Smart things, aren't they, that they can get in? They chewed a hole in. They chewed a hole in the siding to get into the attic.
Yeah, they chewed a hole right behind like the gutter and like went in there, and I ended up closing that off, and then I had to make this little flap for when they got to the hole that they could push outward, but couldn't push back inward. So it's tough, because you don't want to kill them, you don't want to trap them in your attic.
No,
and then
well, that's what they did do. They closed the hole. They put live traps in that wouldn't hurt them. And then closed off the hole so that anything that was in the attic hiding would go in for food and get caught in the live trap. And then I said, "Well, you're separating families." And they said, "That's all we can do. We can't catch the squirrels outside, which are related to it. We can only catch the squirrels that are still inside. And then we drive them to a nearby woods and we release them there so they don't find their way back home into your attic." And I'm like, okay, I was busting up squirrel families, but at least they were alive. Okay, so they were alive. And I'm like, "Did you find more than one so they'll have company in the new woods?"
You're so considerate. I mean, gosh, I'm thinking of a whole cartoon series of the squirrel that gets separated from his family. He's got to try to blend in with the new.
And I separated the babies from the mommy and the daddy squirrels that were outside. Oh my God. Ugh. Can't bear it. But the people downstairs would not live with the squirrels in their attic. I probably would. If that was my house and I didn't want to separate baby squirrels from adult squirrels, I could live with it.
Right.
Seriously. Well, what are they going to do? They're not hopefully going to come in and like chew a hole through the ceiling and land in your lap, right? They're just
Well,
going to live
hopefully
in your
not.
attic, you know?
Right. Well, I heard they can chew up wires. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's just mice or whatever, but they can chew electrical stuff up, and
Yep.
so I just.
I've heard that too. Once, you're not going to believe it, my daughter and her 8-year-old friend asked to play with the hamster named Fluffy. And I said, okay, put her in the bathtub and you can pet her in there. But don't leave her because I don't want her to get loose. So somehow Fluffy was left in the bathroom, managed to get out of the bathtub, and managed to get under the bathtub, which was the ceiling of the kitchen. And I had to pay this local handyman a lot of money to tear the bathtub out to save Fluffy's life because we could hear her scratching in the kitchen ceiling for like a week. And nothing we could do could get Fluffy out. And we're like, we just can't kill Fluffy. We can't.
A week? She didn't starve, huh?
No, because we were putting mouse traps that were humane with peanut butter, little ladders, hoping she'd climb up from the ceiling into the bathroom again with like a parakeet ladder.
Right.
We had nets, we had everything. We were trying to lure her out. The person who found her alive said she was probably living on spiders because that's like meat and drink at the same time. Pretty gross, right? Eating spiders for food and drink.
Meat and drink. Okay. All right. So I'm not wanting to eat cheesecake anymore. That's
You don't want cheesecake
that's one
anymore.
plus size.
We saved Fluffy, and she went on to live 10 months. I think her life was shortened from her time in the ceiling. And we put the bathtub back. Yeah. There's no length that I will not go to save an animal's life. It is pretty ridiculous.
That's clear.
That is clear.
Well, that's good to cherish life that way.
Yeah.
I guess I see it as, and I really don't treat anything any different than I would myself. You know what I mean? So I guess it's sort of, you treat how you want to be treated at some point,
Yeah.
So.
And as soon as you see all life as one life, like you are all life, then It's like, how can you forsake a hamster? It's alive, and it's your children's fault that it wound up in the ceiling under the bathtub. It just did hamster stuff. It just didn't know better.
Right. But when you realize it's not the end, not really the end.
It would go back to hamster energy and maybe come back as a higher animal or another hamster again. I've thought of that, but at the moment, I just want to save Fluffy.
I hear you. Yeah, because it wears on you, and most of the stuff, like I can say, it's all accidental, like hitting a bird in the road or something in your car. Had a few things like that, and you just feel so horrible. And I would have done anything to stop it if I could have. I think my wife ran over a nest of with the lawnmower, a nest of rabbits like years ago.
Yeah, but it's like, who knew that the rabbits were in there? And she's like, oh my God, that must have been.
But it's just one of those things that stick with you, and it's just like awful,
Yeah, it's true. And it's nice to feel compassionate about all animals. I was walking the dogs, and I have to keep them off the grass because they spray the grass with stuff that makes their paws itch, and then they chew their paws off. So I'm walking them in the road, which kind of wears down their toenails. So it serves a double function. They get their exercise. And we came across a big toad flattened by a car. And it was massive. And I'm like, oh, you poor thing. But it's a cane toad. And if a dog licks a cane toad, they die. So it's an animal that kills dogs because it has a skin poison that's its defensive mechanism. But being squashed in the middle of the road, I still had empathy for it. I still felt bad for it, even though it's a dog killer.
Right.
I would never step on one on purpose. I would never kill one on purpose.
Right.
That's
weird. That must be the ones that people trip when they lick the frogs or whatever.
I'm not sure if it's the same ones from South America that get you high.
Right.
I should look that up.
So if your dog starts tripping out real bad.
They're called cane toads, and they're super poisonous to dogs if dogs get their mouth around it. I mean, it'd be great if it just made your dog high for a while, and it was just
tripping out, seeing orbs and stuff.
Oh, man. Out.
Where's some more of those toads, man?
Give me some more toads, man. That was cool.
Well, it is like that. It's like even a chocolate, isn't that's poisonous to dogs too, isn't it? I heard
Yeah,
you're
it
supposed to keep
is.
chocolate.
It
So
is
there's certain
poisonous.
things that are just not good for animals. That.
Yeah, just not good. Oh, aloe vera plants.
Oh, really? I said I didn't know about that one.
Aloe vera plant, yeah, it's in the skin of the aloe vera plant that can be poisonous or toxic. It can be toxic to dogs. I think it just makes them sick.
Right.
How do I know? My puppy ate my aloe vera plant and I freaked out and I called and I brought her into a vet and they said, she looks like she's going to live. And they didn't charge me and said, go home. I'm like, did I kill my puppy? You know, she's like 3 pounds and she got a hold of an aloe vera plant somehow.
I know another one was that you got to be careful about because it's sweet is um, uh, coolant for the car, antifreeze.
I've heard of that. I've heard people who dump coolant in the wild poison whatever animal comes up to it, eats it because it's sweet. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, you'll
Um,
notice it if you're working on your radiator and it has it in there and it's steaming in your face. You'll taste the sweetness in your mouth.
Seriously?
So yeah. So it's like an animal will taste it. It tastes sweet and then it
And
actually
they'll
poisons
drink
them.
it.
Yeah.
And I've heard that about bubble gum. When you spit bubble gum out in the wild, a small animal will eat it
And it
and it
doesn't
completely
digest.
bungs up their digestive system. They can't pass it.
Uh,
And what else? Bubble gum, coolant. I think that's about it. It's just
my this is horrible, but my just so you guys know to be careful. My brother-in-law said when he was a kid, they would throw up Alka-Seltzer and let the birds catch it, and then
ooh,
not good.
not good.
Uh,
No, because that'll like blow up their tummies.
right,
Oh,
because they
yes,
don't.
that's true. Okay, so if you don't have duck food and turtle food, you can throw them some organic rice or just rice,
Hmm.
and it will blow up in their tummies and make them feel full, but they can pass the rice. But if you throw bread full of gluten and they eat too much gluten, they have difficulty pooping out gluten. It bungs up their digestive system. And of course, everybody's tossing bread constantly. They also said you can toss oats, like uncooked oatmeal,
Mm-hmm.
and that will, with the digestive juices, blow up and make them feel full, and they can pass it because it's a grain.
All right.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Welcome, Craig MacArthur, new subscriber. Craig.
Oh, cool.
I need
Well,
to
we
get
sure
some.
have covered a lot of ground tonight, haven't we?
We sure have, and it's exciting. You know, everybody's stuck at home. We're just hanging out, having a good time, and well,
Yeah,
not
just
everybody, but you know, and I had people that's like, my life hasn't really changed. They're still working
my
like
life has
normal,
changed.
and
I was free the whole time, and guess where I was yesterday? I was on the beach.
where you?
Yeah,
But where would you have been anyway?
they opened our beaches on May 1st. So I was stuck in South Florida, which is fine. We don't have big cities around us. You know,
Hmm.
my nearest city is 2 hours away and 45 minutes away. So I'm like really in a country place. And they only did safer at home. They just said you're safer at home. But if you want to go out, go out. And so now we have all our shops open. We have some of our restaurants open. We have the beaches open. I think we're like the first to go back to freedom. Don't you think? Florida's like first.
Yeah, you guys were one of the first to get locked down too, though, weren't you?
I guess, but it never affected me because the cities of Tampa, Orlando, and Miami locked down, but the state of Florida didn't. It was really weird. Like we have this really open-minded governor who's like, I'm not going to lock you down. If you want to stay home, you go stay home. That's fine with me, but I'm not going to lock you down. I'm like, I
All
love
right.
that.
Finally,
I,
somebody with some sense out there.
yeah, it's like I love it. Thank you.
It's wild, but yeah, things are starting to get back to normal here. I noticed that the gym was packed full of cars. I'm like, wow, people didn't waste any time to go and you know
Well, I
get out
just
there.
heard like I don't know a lot of shops because I don't go into them. And my friend, my daughter's friend who works at Rooms to Go, he's like, "Oh, I'm working tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh, good. You went back to work on May 1st when the beach is open." He was like, "Heck no, I went back to work 2 weeks ago." So if Rooms to Go, which is a chain, opened up 2 weeks ago and I didn't even know it, how many other businesses were open as usual 2 weeks ago that I
I,
just didn't notice?
yeah, and a lot of businesses will look closed, but they're open too. So you have to really
You have
keep
to
an
like
eye on
look inside and see if the
it.
lights are on inside, right?
Right. That's funny. But you know, I think things are starting to at least feel more normal to people around town, and so that's
Yeah, this too shall pass.
all right.
And I just really, really hope for everybody who have economic challenges now that they get on top of those and they find ways to kind of spread that out so that they're not too challenged financially.
Right.
I do feel for everybody who's, a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck. It's a normal way of life now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's affecting so many people right now.
And I will say the rest of the Western world, Canada included, and Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Scandinavia, they all have social programs in place that if you're thrown out of work, you get like 60 to 80% of your pay. You go back to work. We just don't have safety nets in America. We've never created that because we're like, oh, that's communism. Let's give all our money to the military. Oh, that's communism. Don't give people health care. Give all your money to the military. Oh, that's communism. Don't pay for higher education for all children. Give your money to the military. Yeah. We've been kind of brainwashed here that taking care of your people with your tax money is a bad thing. It's totally brainwashing because that's what taxes are for. They're literally there to help the community.
Right.
Yeah.
We've lost track of that, haven't we?
We've lost track of that.
In a big way.
We're paying taxes in the first place.
Well, thank you for the out-of-body experience, Eileen.
I hope it works.
That was fun.
I'll go back and read the comments and see if other people were successful with it and found it helpful.
Yeah, hopefully they'll chime in in the chat or in the comments below if they're
let us know if it works for you. And if it doesn't, just go, that doesn't work for me. You'll find something.
I'm looking forward to trying it on my own because I think it's one of those things where, I have my grandkids in the other room making noises and, it'll just be better.
Just do it. It's nice.
But I like the method, you know what I mean?
Gradually get bigger.
Going small and then expanding out.
Yeah, get small, get big, and then get small again and come back in your body. It's fun. It's easy. It makes it easy.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and all of you guys watching later. And Eileen, thank you again for being here with me.
Much love to you
next week.
Everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
Be sure to check out the website at uotf.net. There you will find the live stream schedule displayed in your local time right there on the front page. Below that, you'll find links to take the Beyond Quantum Healing course at a discounted rate, purchase our book, Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe, in paperback or ebook, or to contact me to schedule a BQH session. At the top of the site, you'll find links to help support the work I do, access the free private forum where you can discuss organizing get-togethers in your area, Mandela effects, and more. Thank you all so much for being here.